Welcome to Galactic Chronicles. I'm Commander Nova, and I'll be your narrator today. Over 800 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new episodes of Stellar Academy and the continuing adventures of Captain Rex and his crew. If you'd like to unlock early access and support future episodes, tap Join below to become a Galactic Chronicles member. Now let's dive into today's story. The laughter echoed through the crystalline chambers of the Deathworld Council like the sound of shattering glass. Ambassador Zix-9, whose species had evolved on a planet where the oceans were liquid mercury and the air was composed of corrosive compounds, wheezed through his respiratory filters as he read the application. "Earth," he announced to the assembled council, his voice dripping with amusement. "The humans want to join our prestigious Deathworld coalition." More laughter rippled through the chamber. Counselor Vrak Thul, whose homeworld experienced daily meteor showers and gravity 14 times stronger than Earth's, slammed his titanium fist on the obsidian table. "These humans," Vrak Thul spat, "live on a planet where water falls from the sky as a gift, where the gravity is so weak they can jump for recreation, and where the most dangerous predator weighs less than my breakfast. What could they possibly teach us about surviving death worlds?" In the corner of the chamber, Junior Liaison Kaid Reeves stood perfectly still, clutching his datapad like a lifeline. He'd been assigned to Earth's application because he was expendable. A rookie diplomat from the relatively tame world of Kepler, 442b. His supervisor had literally laughed while giving him the assignment. "However," Ambassador Zix-9 continued, "protocol demands we conduct a formal evaluation. The Coalition's reputation depends on thorough assessments, regardless of how amusing the application might be. Send the evaluation team," Counselor Thex Prime commanded, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into rainbow patterns. "Let them document this comedy firsthand. Perhaps we need entertainment to break up our serious discussions about actual death worlds." Cade cleared his throat. "Respectfully, council members, perhaps we should—" "Junior Liaison Reeves," Zix-9 interrupted, "you'll accompany the evaluation team. Consider it a learning experience. You'll witness what happens when a species with delusions of grandeur meets reality." "But sir, the preliminary reports suggest that they have weather patterns and some large mammals?" Vrak Thul laughed. "My planet's gentle breezes can strip flesh from bone. Their so-called hurricanes would be considered a pleasant day on any true death world." The evaluation ship, Inevitable Judgment, dropped out of hyperspace 3 days later in Earth's solar system. The vessel was a monument to over-engineering, designed to survive the worst conditions the galaxy could offer. Its hull could withstand temperatures that would vaporize most stars, and its crew quarters were equipped with atmospheric processors capable of converting poison gas into breathable air. Captain Yexinol studied the blue-green planet on the main screen with visible disdain. "Disgusting," he muttered through his breathing apparatus. "Look at all that water. No wonder they're soft." Beside him, Senior Evaluator Quindal ran preliminary scans. "Atmosphere is 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen. Gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. Temperature ranges are—" She paused, rechecking her instruments. "Surprisingly stable. This isn't a death world, it's a nursery." Kaid stood at the back of the bridge, reviewing his notes on human culture. Something nagged at him about the discrepancy between Earth's apparently benign environment and the confidence in their application. The humans had submitted documentation claiming their planet was worthy of coalition membership, but nothing in their environmental data supported that claim. "Sir," Communications Officer Rival announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface." "Put it through," Captain Yex-Null ordered. The screen flickered, revealing a human female with short auburn hair and eyes that seemed to contain barely controlled chaos. She wore what appeared to be a standard diplomatic uniform, but something about her posture suggested she was more comfortable in combat gear. "Welcome to Earth," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach those dangerous eyes. "I'm Director Zara Mackenzie, Head of Interspecies Relations. We're honored to host the Coalition Evaluation Team." "Director Mackenzie," Captain Yexnol replied formally, I am Captain Yexnull of the Coalition vessel Inevitable Judgment. We are here to conduct the standard Deathworld evaluation as requested by your government. Zara's smile widened. Excellent. We've prepared a comprehensive tour that will demonstrate why Earth qualifies for Coalition membership. I should mention, you might want to bring protective gear. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Senior Evaluator. Quindal's sensors showed nothing that would require special protection. That won't be necessary, Yexnull replied. Our standard equipment is sufficient for any environment your planet can provide. If you say so, Zara said, and there was something in her tone that made Kaid's skin crawl. We've prepared landing coordinates. Fair warning, we're starting with the easy stuff. The transmission ended. The bridge was quiet for a moment before Vrak Thul's offspring, Junior Captain Dex Thul, broke the silence. The easy stuff? What could possibly be difficult about a planet where the native species requires external heating for survival? 2 hours later, they found out. The shuttle touched down in what the humans called Death Valley. The name had amused the Coalition team, until they stepped outside. The heat hit them like a physical blow. Not the clean heat of a proper death world, where temperatures were so extreme that the atmosphere itself burned. This was something else, a creeping, insidious warmth that seemed to seep through their protective suits and attack their very essence. Temperature reading, Senior Evaluator Quindal called out, checking her instruments. 54 degrees Celsius. That's actually quite warm for natural atmospheric conditions. It's summer, Director Mackenzie said cheerfully, appearing beside them without any protective gear whatsoever. She wore what appeared to be lightweight fabric clothing and something called sunglasses. We're having a mild day, actually. Sometimes it gets up to 57, 58 degrees. You're not wearing protection, Junior Captain Dex Thul observed with confusion. Protection from what? Zara asked. It's just a little warm, though I should mention, don't touch any metal surfaces with bare skin. They're probably hot enough to cause burns. Kaid watched as his colleagues dismissed this warning. After all, their suits were designed for environments where metal would be molten plasma. What could Earth metal possibly do to them? Communications Officer Rivel found out when he casually leaned against the shuttle's hull. The scream that emerged from his translator was unlike anything Kaid had ever heard. Rivel jumped back, his suit's emergency medical systems activating as the hull's heat penetrated even their advanced protective technology. That's impossible, Captain Yexnull stated flatly. Our suits can withstand temperatures of, can they withstand sustained heat combined with zero humidity while walking across terrain that reflects additional thermal radiation? Zara asked innocently. Because that's what we'll be doing for the next 6 hours. She started walking across what appeared to be endless flat terrain, covered in some kind of crystalline formations. The Coalition team followed, their confidence beginning to waver as their suits' cooling systems worked harder than they had on planets orbiting binary stars. This is still nothing compared to a real death world, Senior Evaluator Quindal insisted, though Kaid noticed she was checking her suit's power reserves more frequently. Oh, this isn't the death world part, Zara called back cheerfully. This is just Tuesday in California. Wait until you see what we do for fun. They walked for 3 hours across terrain that seemed designed by a sadist. The ground temperature measured hot enough to cook food. The air was so dry it seemed to leach moisture from their bodies, even through sealed suits. And the sun beat down with intensity that made their instruments question their own calibration. By the time they reached what Zara called a rest stop, a small building that somehow existed in this hellscape, Junior Captain Dex Thul was openly questioning the efficiency of Coalition suit design. How, he asked, watching Zara drink something called ice water without any apparent discomfort, do your people survive in this environment? Survive? Zara laughed. We don't just survive, we vacation here. People pay money to come experience Death Valley. We have hiking trails, camping areas, and scenic viewpoints. Last month, my grandmother walked 15 miles here for her 80th birthday celebration. The Coalition team stared at her in horror. Your elderly participate in recreational activities in this environment? Senior Evaluator. Quindal's voice was strained. Well, yeah, though to be fair, Grandma Rose is pretty hardcore. She once arm wrestled a bear. She what? Different story. Come on, let's head to the next location. I want to show you guys the ocean. They flew to a place called Hawaii, and Kai began to understand why the coalition's initial assessment had been so wrong. From orbit, Earth looked peaceful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. It looked like paradise. From ground level, it was clear that Earth's beauty was the kind that killed you. Volcanic activity, Captain Yexnol asked, watching lava flow into the ocean in the distance. 24/7, Zara confirmed. This whole island chain is basically just volcanoes that got ambitious. The locals surf near active lava flows sometimes. Great Instagram shots. They do what near the lava flows? Surf. You know, ride waves on boards? For fun? Sometimes during volcanic eruptions, the waves get really good because of the thermal updrafts, and why are you all looking at me like that? Kaid was making notes as fast as his translator could process. The humans didn't just live on a death world. They had turned living on a death world into recreation. They sought out the dangerous parts of their planet and played in them. The lava creates new land, Zara continued, leading them down a path that was definitely too close to molten rock for anyone's comfort. It's beautiful, really. The creation and destruction happening simultaneously. Very zen. Your people find volcanic activity relaxing, Senior Evaluator Quindal asked weakly. Some do. Others prefer skydiving into hurricanes. The coalition team stopped walking. Skydiving into what? Captain Yexnol's translator managed. Hurricanes. You know, massive storm systems with winds over 300 kilometers per hour. Some humans jump out of aircraft into them to take measurements and collect data. Others do it because Tuesday was boring. Kaid watched his colleagues' growing horror with fascination. They were beginning to understand what he'd suspected from the beginning. Earth's danger wasn't in its environment alone, but in what the environment had created. Speaking of weather, Zara said, checking her device, we should head to the next location. Tornado season is starting, and I promised you the full Earth experience. They flew to a place called Oklahoma, where Zara introduced them to a human named Tank Rodriguez, who apparently made a living by driving directly into tornadoes. Tornado, Captain Yexnol asked, studying the approaching wall of dark clouds. Rotating column of air with wind speeds up to 500 kilometers per hour, Tank explained cheerfully, loading equipment into what appeared to be an armored vehicle. They can level entire cities, launch vehicles through the air, and create pressure differentials that make buildings explode. Want to come along? I'm going to drive right into the center of that one. He pointed at a funnel cloud that was forming in real time, a twisting spear of destruction that seemed to tear reality itself. You're going to drive into that, Junior Captain Dex Thul's voice cracked. Yep, for science. And because it's there. And because my ex-wife said I'd never amount to anything dangerous. Come on, it'll be fun. 20 minutes later, Cade found himself in the back of Tank's vehicle, watching coalition officers who had faced down cosmic horrors scream as they drove directly into a phenomenon that seemed designed to murder everything it touched. The tornado picked up the vehicle, all 15 tons of armored metal and scientific equipment, and spun it like a toy. This is normal? Senior Evaluator Quinn Dahl shrieked as they rotated upside down. Pretty much, Tank called back, apparently having the time of his life. Though usually we don't get lifted this high, this is actually really cool data. When they finally landed, mostly intact, Captain Yex Null lay on the ground, staring at the sky. Your planet, he said slowly, has localized atmospheric phenomena that can lift and destroy massive objects. Tornadoes are honestly pretty mild compared to some of our weather, Zara said. Wait until you experience a Category 5 hurricane, or a blizzard, or a haboob. What's a haboob? Kud asked, immediately regretting the question. Wall of dust and wind that can be over a mile high and move at 100 kilometers per hour, turns day into night instantly, and can bury entire cities. Very biblical apocalypse aesthetic. The photos are amazing. The coalition team exchanged looks. They were beginning to understand that Earth's classification problem wasn't that it wasn't dangerous enough. It was that the humans had made peace with apocalyptic conditions and turn them into tourist attractions. Let's head somewhere calmer, Zara suggested. I want to show you guys the Australian outback. That sounds peaceful, Communications Officer Rivel said hopefully. Zara's grin was absolutely terrifying. In Australia, they met Brock Sanderson, a man whose job description was apparently professional dangerous animal handler and extreme tourism guide. Welcome to the deadliest continent on Earth, Brock announced cheerfully, where everything wants to kill you and the things that don't want to kill you are probably just waiting for a better opportunity. He gestured to what appeared to be normal grassland stretching to the horizon. Looks peaceful, right? Wrong. See that grass? Probably hiding a taipan, most venomous snake on the planet. One bite contains enough neurotoxin to kill 100 humans. Or maybe a death adder, possibly a funnel web spider. Oh, and watch out for the drop bears. Drop bears? Senior Evaluator Quindell asked hesitantly. Absolutely terrifying, dropping out of trees onto unsuspecting tourists. Though between you and me, Brock winked, I'm probably messing with you about those ones. Probably. They walked through terrain that looked like paradise, but was apparently an active minefield of biological warfare. Every plant, animal, and insect seemed designed specifically to kill humans in creative and painful ways. Your people willingly live in this environment? Captain Yexnul asked, after jumping away from what Brock casually identified as just a huntsman spider, completely harmless, only about the size of a dinner plate. Live here? Mate, we vacation here. This is where people come to relax and get back to nature. My neighbor brings her kids camping here every summer. She brings children into an environment populated by creatures specifically evolved to kill them? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds irresponsible. But you've got to understand, this is how we build character. Kids need to learn proper spider identification, snake bite first aid, and crocodile safety protocols. Basic life skills. Cade was frantically taking notes. The humans weren't just surviving on a death world. They were using their death world as an educational system for their offspring. Speaking of crocodiles, Brock continued, who wants to feed the salties? An hour later, Cade watched Senior Evaluator Quindall have what could only be described as an existential crisis as she observed humans hand-feeding creatures that could bite through military-grade armor. They're just playing with it, she whispered. That predator could kill them instantly, and they're playing with it. His name is Bruce, Brock said, scratching under the massive crocodile's chin. He's been with us for 15 years, loves belly rubs and hates Mondays. Don't you, Bruce? Bruce, who was approximately 20 feet of prehistoric murder machine, made what could generously be called a happy noise. This is insane, Junior Captain Dex Toole stated flatly. This is Tuesday, Zara corrected. Wait until you see what we do on weekends. Who's ready for base jumping? Base jumping? Captain Yexnul asked with the tone of someone who no longer wanted to know the answer. Jumping off cliffs, buildings, bridges, anything really tall, with just a parachute. Sometimes the parachute doesn't open properly. Sometimes people do it anyway because the view is really good. Your people jump off cliffs for entertainment? Some people. Others prefer free solo rock climbing. That's climbing massive cliff faces without any safety equipment at all. Just you, the rock, and gravity. Very peaceful, very zen, very likely to result in death if you make a single mistake. The coalition team was quiet for a long moment. Why? Senior Evaluator Quindall finally asked. Why do your people voluntarily engage in activities that could kill them? Zara thought about this seriously. Because we can, because it's there, because conquering fear makes us feel alive, because the alternative is sitting at home, safe and bored, and what kind of life is that? She paused, looking at their horrified faces. Look, you guys come from planets where survival is hard work, where every day is a struggle against an environment trying to kill you. But that's just existing. We took a planet that could kill us and decided to make it fun. We turned natural disasters into sporting events. We made friends with apex predators. We took poison and made it into food additives. You did what with poison? Oh, capsaicin. From peppers. We bred peppers specifically to be more poisonous. Then we eat them competitively. There are championships. People train for years to eat the most painful foods possible. We have a pepper called the Carolina Reaper that's literally named after death, and people eat it on YouTube for views. Kaid pulled up the reference videos on his datapad. The coalition team watched in stunned silence as humans voluntarily consumed substances that would be classified as chemical weapons on most planets, apparently for entertainment. Tool, this is biological warfare, Communications Officer Rivel whispered. This is lunch, Zara corrected. Though to be fair, some of the really hot stuff requires you to sign a waiver. A waiver? Legal document, acknowledging that eating the food might hospitalize or kill you, and that you're doing it anyway. Very popular at restaurants. People bring dates to places where the food might literally kill them. It's considered romantic. Captain Yex Knoll sat down heavily on a nearby rock. Your species weaponized romance? We weaponized everything, Zara said cheerfully. Music, food, sports, transportation, even sleep. How do you weaponize sleep? Sleep deprivation challenges. People stay awake as long as possible, sometimes for days to see who can last longest. Others do extreme sleeping, sleeping in dangerous locations like cliff edges, underwater, or during natural disasters. There's a guy who holds the record for sleeping through a Category 4 hurricane. The coalition team looked at each other. In the space of one day, they had witnessed humans treat every aspect of survival as an opportunity for recreational activities that would traumatize hardened Deathworld veterans. I need to make a report, Captain Yex Knoll said weakly. Sure thing. But first, who wants to try bungee jumping? We're near one of the best spots on the planet. What's bungee jumping? Kaid asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know. Jumping off bridges with just an elastic cord attached to your ankles. Sometimes the cord breaks. Sometimes people do it anyway because the rush is incredible. The cord breaks and people still do it. Well, not often. And when it does break, sometimes people survive anyway. Humans are surprisingly bouncy. Senior Evaluator. Quindal was making rapid calculations on her datapad. According to my analysis, your species has turned every environmental hazard on your planet into recreational activities. Volcanic eruptions become tourist attractions. Dangerous weather becomes sporting events. Venomous creatures become pets. Poisonous substances become food. Don't forget extreme tourism, Zara added helpfully. People pay extra to visit the most dangerous places possible. War zones, active volcanoes, areas with dangerous wildlife. Extreme weather zones. The more likely you are to die, the more people want to go there. That's not survival, Junior Captain Dex Thule said slowly. That's not even adaptation. That's evolution, Zara finished. We didn't just adapt to our planet. We made our planet adapt to us. We turned death into entertainment, fear into fun, and survival into an art form. She looked at their stunned faces and smiled. Want to see the really impressive stuff? They spent the next week touring Earth's greatest hits. Mount Everest, where humans climbed into the death zone for fun. The Amazon rainforest, where every plant and animal was engaged in chemical warfare. The Arctic, where humans built research stations and called it cozy. Underwater cave systems, where humans went diving with limited air supplies. And finally, a place called Florida. What makes Florida special? Captain Yex Knoll asked, though he'd learned to dread these questions. Florida is where we send the humans who find the rest of Earth too boring, Zara explained. It's like Australia, but with more alligators, fewer safety regulations, and absolutely no regard for the laws of physics or common sense. In Florida, they met a man named Diesel Thompson, who wrestled alligators professionally while his grandmother live-streamed the matches and provided commentary. Now you see Diesel's got that gator in a chokehold, Grandma Betty narrated to her phone camera. But that gator's not giving up easy. Oh, there goes Diesel's shirt. That's going to cost him points with the judges, but gain him points with the ladies in the audience. The coalition team watched a human being voluntarily grapple with a creature that could death roll him into paste, while his elderly relative provided sports commentary as if this was perfectly normal. This is your entertainment? Senior Evaluator Quindal asked faintly. This is Tuesday night at the local community center, Grandma Betty replied. Wednesdays, we have competitive snake charming, and Fridays are hurricane surfing season. You boys should stick around. Friday's going to be a big storm, and my grandson Jake's going to try to set a new record. Hurricane surfing? Communications Officer Rybel whispered. Surfing during hurricanes, Diesel explained, casually maintaining his chokehold on 200 pounds of armored predator. Waves get really big, winds get really fast, very likely to die. Great adrenaline rush. You surf during the storms that destroy cities? Only Category 3 and above, Diesel said seriously. Anything less isn't worth the setup time, though my cousin Rick once surfed a waterspout, and that was only a Category 1. Made great video, though. That night, Captain Yexnul called an emergency meeting of the evaluation team. I need to know, he said, looking haggard, what exactly we're dealing with here. Junior Liaison Reeves, you've been taking notes. What's your assessment? Kai looked at his colleagues, beings who had come from planets where survival required constant vigilance, advanced technology, and careful resource management. They looked traumatized. Sir, he began carefully, I believe Earth's classification problem isn't that it's not dangerous enough for Coalition membership. The problem is that it's too dangerous for us to understand. Explain. Every other Deathworld species adapts to survive their environment. They build shelter from acid rain, develop technology to filter poison air, create weapons to fight off predators. They survive despite their world. Cade pulled up his notes on his datapad. Humans are different. They looked at a planet that could kill them and said, how can we make this more fun? They didn't just survive Earth, they turned it into a playground. They weaponized joy. They made danger into entertainment. They turned survival into art. He scrolled through video clips they'd recorded. Look at the evidence. They breed plants to be more poisonous, then eat them competitively. They seek out the most dangerous weather patterns and play in them. They make friends with apex predators. They climb mountains that kill people, swim with creatures that can eat them, and jump off cliffs for fun. Captain Yexnul was quiet for a long moment. What's your recommendation? Sir, I think we need to completely restructure our understanding of what constitutes a death world. Earth isn't just qualified for Coalition membership. Earth is operating on a level we didn't know existed. Senior Evaluator. Quinn Dahl looked up from her own notes. I concur. Every metric we use to measure Deathworld survivability is based on adaptation and endurance. But humans didn't just adapt, they thrived. They took every environmental hazard and turned it into recreation. The question, Junior Captain Dex Toole added, is whether the Coalition is ready for Earth, not whether Earth is ready for the Coalition. The next morning, they found Director Mackenzie waiting for them at their shuttle, along with Diesel, Tank, Brock, Grandma Betty, and a small crowd of other humans they'd met during their tour. So, Zara said, what's the verdict? Captain Yexnul stepped forward formally. Director Mackenzie, on behalf of the Deathworld Coalition, I must inform you that Earth's application has been problematic. The humans exchanged glances. Diesel cracked his knuckles. Tank started checking something that looked suspiciously like a weapon. Brock casually reached into his pocket where he probably kept emergency venomous creatures. Problematic how? Zara asked, and her smile was sharp enough to cut Diamond. We cannot classify Earth as a standard death world, Captain Yexnul continued quickly, because Earth operates beyond our current classification system. We need to create an entirely new category. The tension broke. The humans relaxed. What kind of category? Grandma Betty asked, lowering her phone where she'd been ready to live stream what she'd probably title Alien Diplomats Get Educated by Florida Grandmother. Apex Death World, Senior Evaluator Quindell announced. Reserved for planets where the native species have not just survived, but have turned survival into recreation and recreation into art. Furthermore, Captain Yexnul added, the Coalition formally requests that Earth consider serving as a training ground for Deathworld survival specialists. Our people could learn much from your unique approach to environmental challenges. Zara's grin could have powered a small city. We'd be delighted to help. Fair warning, though, our training programs have a pretty high casualty rate. How high? Communications Officer Rybel asked nervously. Well, nobody's actually died yet, Tank said reassuringly. though we did have that one alien who needed therapy after the spider introduction course. And the one who quit after day one of Hurricane Academy, Diesel added. And pretty much everyone who's tried Australian boot camp, Brock concluded. But hey, Grandma Betty said cheerfully, that's how you build character. Anyone want some of my special hot sauce before you go? I made it with Carolina Reapers and ghost peppers. Only 3 people have tried it without crying. 6 months later, the Deathworld Coalition had established its first Earth training facility in what the humans called Tornado Alley. Applications to attend Earth's Survival Academy were the most sought-after and most feared training programs in Coalition history. Qaid, now promoted to Senior Liaison for Earth Relations, stood in his new office watching the latest batch of Coalition cadets learn basic human recreational activities. Through his window, he could see Tank teaching 3-dimensional evasive maneuvering, tornado chasing, while Brock demonstrated advanced predator friendship protocols, crocodile wrestling. His communication device chimed. It was Captain Yex Knoll calling from the Coalition capital. Liaison Reeves. Yex Knoll's voice came through clearly. I have an update from the Council. Earth's Apex Deathworld status has been officially ratified. Additionally, the Council has voted to establish the Earth Protocol for future Deathworld evaluations. What's the Earth Protocol, sir? Never assume a species' capabilities based on their planet's appearance. If they're voluntarily living there, there's probably a very good reason they're not afraid of it. Through his window, Qaid watched Diesel successfully teach a Drexarian combat specialist how to wrestle an alligator, while Grandma Betty provided commentary and served refreshments that could legally be classified as chemical weapons. Also, Captain Yexnol continued, the Council wants to know if humans would be interested in consulting on some of our more challenging first contact situations. What kind of situations? There's a species on Kepler 1649c that's been completely isolated because their planet is considered too dangerous for standard diplomatic contact. Constant volcanic activity, predatory flora, atmospheric toxins, and weather patterns that can strip armor from starships. Qaid thought about the humans he'd met, who turned every environmental hazard into a recreational activity. I'll ask Director Mackenzie, but sir, I think they're going to be very excited about this opportunity. That's what I was afraid of, Captain Yex Knoll said, and disconnected. Outside, a new batch of Coalition cadets was arriving for their first day of Earth Survival Academy. Qaid watched them disembark from their heavily armored transport, wearing full environmental protection suits and carrying enough survival gear to colonize a small moon. Director Mackenzie met them wearing shorts, a t-shirt, and flip-flops. Welcome to Earth, she announced cheerfully. Hope you brought your sense of humor because you're about to learn that everything you thought you knew about survival is adorable. Who's ready to jump out of a perfectly good airplane? The cadets looked at each other in horror. Qaid smiled. Earth was going to fit in just fine with the Deathworld Coalition. The Coalition, on the other hand, was going to need therapy. But that was just another Tuesday on the planet where the inhabitants had looked at certain death and decided to make it into a team-building exercise. And somewhere in the distance, he could hear Grandma Betty starting her afternoon live stream. Welcome back to Cooking with Consequences, where today we're making 5-alarm chili with ingredients that technically qualify as weapons of mass destruction. Remember, kids, if you can still feel your tongue, you're not using enough peppers. Earth, where even the grandmothers were armed and dangerous, and the weapons were often edible. The Coalition had thought they were evaluating whether Earth qualified as a death world. They discovered that Earth had been evaluating whether the Coalition qualified to survive contact with humans. The verdict was still out.